Tuesday afternoon, February 23rd, doing the second episode of my podcast, the Armchair Podcast. I had no idea what I'm going to talk about today, just like always, but I think I figured I'd start with the thing that's going on, probably the most important thing in our country. Obviously, the political elections for, 2017, who's going to be the new prez, right? Looking at the Republican side, according to USA Today's charts, and let's see, Trump is pulling 33.6% as of right now, at least for the Republican ticket. Cruz is shortly behind, and swear I heard on NPR last night that Jeb Bush dropped out of the race. He's just trailing down there at 5.8%. Some people were criticizing his campaign for not coming out and just, slugging it hard with Trump. And it's not that I don't think he wasn't. I just don't think maybe the point of the broadcast that I heard was that he didn't play the right tactics, which is like the hardball with Trump. But at the same time, I feel like Trump's been campaigning for president since Obama's been in office. With that whole birther controversy, as far as let me see your birth certificate, right? So I don't, it kind of makes sense that Trump is this far ahead. He's had time to hone his craft, as it were, as far as the political campaign, the political arena. And, he's just had time to work on the campaign. Especially, when you're out there poking the bee's nest, you can kind of figure out, okay, here's how the bees are going to react, right? And I say this again regarding back to how he was criticizing Obama for not producing the birth certificate and all that. He figured out what his niche market was, which is basically a bunch of people who have very strong opinions about, the Democratic side of things. Democrat, I should say, because Democratic is the process which we all live under, I think, right? Anyway, so, he figured out, what buttons he could push and what sort of people would respond to all these, outrageous statements that he was making. But I saw a thing not too long ago where somebody pointed out that, it seems like everybody's forgotten about this, but I haven't either, how much unsuccessful business Trump has had. Generally he's a success, but there's been a lot of businesses that he's started and failed. I think he's gone through a couple of bankruptcies. Long story short, the guy, money, business sense, but I don't think he's going to be the guy that's going to be in the nation's best interest. Even if you are a Republican, even if you're a Democrat, whatever, let's say maybe Trump had some good ideas or whatever, but I'm not saying that he does, but let's just say hypothetically that he did. Fucking, just in general, he doesn't seem like the best guy for the job. I was having this conversation with somebody, and they were like, well, yeah, but, Trump could do this and that because he's a business maker and all that shit, right? But the thing that really halted the conversation that came out of my mouth was that, it's going to be business as usual once he gets in there. He's going to have all of his special interest buddies, who I imagine are just going to be a lot of people on Wall Street that he's taking care of, making sure that everybody's, continuing to get rich while, you're cutting back on the labor force as far as health benefits and sometimes even hours, replacing them with machines. I get that business aspect of it. You're always trying to find ways to cut costs and stuff like that, but at the same time, you have to take care of your employees and all that stuff, not replace them. Maybe find. If you have to cut, I don't know. I'm not going to comment on that because business is complicated and I don't know enough about it. I should probably just be smart about that, right? I'm just going to shut the fuck up on business. But yeah, well, Trump's leading on the Republican side at 33.6%. And then as far as Clinton and Sanders go, on the Democratic side, I didn't even know who the other fucking three guys were. Chafee, O'Malley, and Webb. All I knew was Sanders and Clinton. I've said it before and I'll say it again. If Hillary's mullet, just by itself, was running, I would be voting for her mullet. I'm sure that mullet has, a little bit more sense in it than what's actually attached to the mullet. And Sanders, as much as I want him to win, I think he's going to be one of those polarizing guys that's just going to not, he's not going to make people feel comfortable, and people are maybe not going to want to vote for him. I mean, I wish they could see past, I guess what I'm saying is at least he's willing to try some out there shit just to see if it works. I guess in the political field, you can say that, taking risks isn't very solid, you never know where shit's going to go. But I think that's where we're at as a country. I mean, there seems to be a lot of people who want to try something new. In general, people have been talking about being sick of the Clinton and Bush dynasties. I mean, for the last 20 years or so, basically, just as long as I've been alive, pretty much, just as long as I've been alive, with the exception of Obama, it's either been a Bush or been a Clinton, with the exception of Reagan, too. When I was born, Reagan was president, but, that was like the tail end of it. Anyway, so people are talking about how they're getting sick of the Bush and the Clinton dynasties, and, I don't blame them. I'm tired of somebody being a Bush or a Clinton. Bill Clinton's always been fine in my book. I realize there's plenty of people who want to criticize him on both sides of the aisle. But honestly, I mean, he seemed like he handled shit as far as I'm concerned. I don't care about his sex scandals. I don't care about some of the other scandals. I mean, everybody's got scandals, right? But anyway, that's that. I shouldn't be eating on the podcast, but I'm over here eating this bag of mixed nuts. This is my breakfast. So, yeah, anyway. Politics are bullshit. Let's just be honest with that and just call it what it is. I got a buddy, I mentioned him in my last podcast, Mauricio MRZ. Basically, Mauricio's a mononym kind of guy. He's a comedian. I mentioned him in the past. He's got a gig coming up on March 19th. I believe it's going to be his birthday show, so you should all come out, but I unfortunately don't have any sort of information on time and place. Maybe it's going to be at the Vermilion, and I would imagine maybe like 7 o'clock, but for now, don't take that as definite for sure. That's just, I'm guessing his patterns and what's most likely going to be, but I'll update you as soon as I know, because, March 19th is a little bit of ways out, but you should come see this guy's comedy gig, funny comedian. He likes to say things that'll maybe get you a little bit uncomfortable, definitely heavy on the Mexican identity, but, it's very worthwhile comedy. He'll at least get you thinking. Some of the shit that comes out of his mouth will take you off guard, and you'll be like, all right, I guess I wasn't expecting to feel some kind of way about whatever just came out of his mouth, Anyway, I'm not trying to put too much hype all around Mauricio. Come see his comedy show. You'll see for yourself. You'll either like it or you won't. But if you don't like it, fuck you. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so yeah, Mauricio's coming out. Let's see. I got like a whole list of shit that I kind of want to talk about. In the first podcast, I kind of mentioned how I wanted to do some alcohol stories, and here I am currently drinking on the podcast right now. Like there's some days where I wake up and I drink. But like depends on the day. Like right now I'm not drinking hard, but I've already probably had like a couple of whiskey cokes already, like in small quantity. I'd say probably like 2 or 3 shots of whiskey, and then like half a can of half of like one of these like 16-ounce cans of Coca-Cola. So feeling the buzz a little bit, but I'm not, not tipsy yet anyway. But let's see. If you're out there listening on the podcast right now and you've got some alcohol stories before I get started on my own, I definitely am willing to encourage you to send your shit in. It can be a good story. It can be a bad story. You can be, saying like I need help or advice or something like that. A good alcohol story is always welcome too. It doesn't have to be all self-deprecating, like, okay guys, we're working the program where we're doing AA or whatever. This isn't an AA podcast. This is just, some shit where you're maybe self-aware and you're like, shit, maybe I drank a little bit too much, and maybe see how other people cope with shit like that. Recently I was having this thought about going into AA, not because I'm one of those people where it's like, yeah, I acknowledge maybe I have like a little bit of a problem, but I'm not like, hi, my name's Morgan, and I have a problem, and everybody's like, hi, Morgan, whatever. But and plus, I mean, like, you go into those AA places and they fucking want you to accept, the Lord into your life. And honestly, I mean, all I'm looking to do is manage a problem, if anything, and see how other people cope with it. Like, maybe, like, when they feel the urge to drink, do they fucking go out and get some... I mean, there's a lot of people who compensate alcohol with sugar, so, like, they'll go out and get, like, an ice cream or a fucking... I don't know, whatever. You get where I'm going with that. They'll find some other way to supplement it. I mean, for fuck's sake, Lemmy Kilmeister got sick one time just eating like a shit ton of blueberries when he tried quit drinking. So yeah, I mean, people find all kinds of ways of trying to supplement shit. So anyways, I guess I'll get started on my in order to share, you must know my email, right? Send any alcohol stories, good or bad, or maybe you just want to get some alcohol shit off your chest. Send me an email to luceropodcast@gmail.com. That's LUCERO podcast, just like you think it sounds, at gmail.com. Anyway, all right, so getting started on probably like the thing that comes to mind most as far as, like, if I could say anything about my drinking career, it was mostly harmless. I mean, you get in some arguments with some people, you make yourself look embarrassing, you puke in somebody's car. I've never really gotten in a fight, per se. I mean, it might come down to, like, shoving people or getting, like, borderline physical, but I've never, like, gotten in a fist fight while drunk. Which is, probably for the better anyway. It's just, like, one of those things where it's, like, looking back on it the next day, like, why did I get in a fist fight? I suppose. I'm just guessing, obviously. But, the one thing that comes to my mind the most was one time, it was, about 2009 or so, I was invited to someone's birthday party, and it happened to be, Halloween night. But I think they were born, like, a couple days later, and somebody else was having, like, a birthday that was a couple days earlier, and so they just combined it. Anyway, I brought a whole fifth of Sailor Jerry's with me, and I think I downed that in the course of, like, a couple of hours. Just because that's all I had was Sailor Jerry's and, like, no mixer. Maybe I brought, like, a 2-liter of Coke, not thinking that I wasn't going to drink that much, and just fucking killed it. Anyway, shit was going cool. I was being my usual me, which can be, awkward, maybe a little goofy. I guess I kind of tend to be, like, a nervous personality around, like, large groups of people I don't know, because... I don't know, it's one of those things where, like, I feel like I'm constantly being judged, and it's not like the judgment bothers me, but I feel like I'm just constantly getting the wrong impression off to people, and so they're just like, they just kind of write me off right away. And, that might be some part mental on my part, but anyway. So, here I am at this party, it's going well enough, I'm just being me. And, I saw the chick who invited me to the birthday, and I'm like, oh, hey, it's you, I'm, like, really fucking excited. In a moment of excitement, I decide I'm going to grab her by her hips and pick her up. This is out back in the backyard. And, it was raining out, and I'm standing on this, concrete, but it's not, like, concrete that's flat, it's, like, that concrete that's got, those little pebbles in it, so, if there's, like, even the slightest amount of water, you might slip. And lo and behold, that's what happened. I got her high enough up above me, and she was like, oh shit, no. Like, before I even picked her up, she was like, no, don't do it. I went for it anyway. And then I lost my balance, my foot slipped, and then, next thing I know, we're both on the ground, and, and it turns out later she ended up breaking her collarbone, I broke her collarbone. I felt terrible about that, and I still do. As far as any damage out there, that I've caused on my, I mean, I think that's like the worst I've done. And it's, that should have been enough of a wake-up call. Like, I wrote her a long letter, like, I don't know why I wrote her a letter. I could have probably just called her and talked to her or whatever, but I don't know, I felt like a piece of shit at the time, so I figured the further I am away, the better, but I still want to, like, get it out there that I'm sorry. Anyway, so I even said, like, oh, I'm never going to drink again, and, you know, probably about a couple months later, I was drinking again. I did pretty good for, like, a couple months, but, you know, here I am today, sitting here. That was, like, 2009. 6 years later, something like that, 7 years later, I'm still drinking. It's, I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's like, I find myself getting in those situations more often than I would like, and although, you know, the girl's alive, and, you know, she doesn't even know who I am anymore, except for, you know, that guy who broke her collarbone. I don't know. I mean, in general, I mean, I would say everything's good, but it's one of those things where I find myself, you know, like pent up at either work or at home, and I'm like, shit, I don't need a drink is what I'm telling myself, but I kind of really, really, really want one. It's not like I get the shakes or anything like that, or I can't operate. I can go a couple of days without drinking, and longer if I really force myself to. But it's just one of those things where I keep coming back to it, like I'm smoking weed or something like that. You know, I don't know. What do you guys think? I mean, like, you know, what do you do when you're telling yourself, like, shit, I don't want to drink, but, you know, there's got to be something to do out there. Another part of it is, too, is, like, I work the graveyard shift, so, like, I'm, you know, getting off at, like, 2 a.m., but somehow I'm, you know, you'd think, like, oh, that's great because you can't hit the bars as much, but I've never been really much of a bar hopper. I've really been more of, like, the kind to grab a bottle at the grocery store and then just drink alone. I drink alone. That, fucking George Thorogood song. Anyway. If you got any suggestions, anything out there, or if you want to share a story, just email me at luceropodcast@gmail.com. I'd be more than happy to read your stories or anything like that. Hell, even if you've just got, you know, ideas as far as, like, what this podcast should talk about, I don't know, just shoot it my way. I'm always open to suggestions. Alright, so I just got a message back from my friend Mauricio here, and he said he's doing his show on the March 19th at Cafe Racer at 9 p.m. So go see his show. It's good when you get confirmation from your friends what their shows are. So once again, that's Cafe Racer, 9 p.m., March 19th. Mauricio MRZ. You'll enjoy yourself a comedy show. Go see it. I was cruising through the news here, and this one just kind of shocked me. I'm looking at Seattle News. In the Stranger Slog, the headline, Seattle King County NAACP identifies victim of yesterday's police shooting as Shay Taylor. You know, I would describe him as a fairly well-dressed, you know, the picture they present anyway, a fairly well-dressed, you know, I would say clean-looking black man. As far as, like, you know, what does that mean? But I mean, like, it looks like he's like one of those pretty boys, essentially, is what I'm saying. You know, it's not a black or a white thing. It's just he looks like a pretty boy. Well, past tense because he's dead now. Point is, so, you know, basically they're going through, they're describing the article. You know, apparently he was well involved with the community. Somebody said, NAAC President Gerald Hankerson said, I wouldn't be surprised if he was one of the biggest funerals in Seattle. The SPD described him as a known felon who was clearly armed. I don't necessarily know that to be true. I just watched the dash cam video, and the dash cam video kind of took me back to my childhood because where Mr. Taylor got shot was, like, right around the corner from where I lived, like, for so many years. We're talking about, you know, 85th Street, just east of of Lake City, kind of right behind Hong's Drive-In, that Chinese place. So he got gunned down on, you know, basically, like, like I would go play out in that front parking lot across the street, and that's where he got gunned down at. Basically, what happened was the cops got the call, at least on the dash cam. They rolled up to the appropriate address. All these cops swarmed up on the car, and I couldn't see what was going on inside of the car, but essentially, like, maybe he reached for a gun, or maybe he reached for something, and maybe he shouldn't have reached for it. You can't see it at all in the dash cam video at all. All you see is they're going in there, they open the passenger side door, they're like, come out with your hands up, that sort of thing. And then they just open fire. I have to agree with the article here. I mean, unless I can see anything for sure, like, because there was a reflection on the windshield on the driver's side, so you couldn't see, like, as far as I could tell anyway, if he was just sitting there and he wasn't getting out of the car, or if he actually, like, was moving. I couldn't tell at all. But they're basically, already depicting him as a monster, is what the article is. I'm basically quoting the article here. Kathleen O'Toole said that apparently a gun was in reach, which indicates to me that a gun was not in his hand. I mean, that's a what do you call definitely a item for contest right there. I mean, just because you're a black man and you have a gun in the car doesn't mean that necessarily you're gonna reach for it, or that he did reach for it. I would really love to see the body cam here on what actually happened, but all they've released right now is the dash cam. I don't know. It's something doesn't seem right. It seemed like it was a little quick, like everybody was unnecessarily scared just because they knew he was a felon. And I guess that's what the article is saying, is like, I mean, if you're, no matter what your history is, the priority should be to de-escalate. And I don't think that's what happened here. It looked like they basically came in and all it did was escalate. But again, I mean, if you're a cop in that situation and if he's literally about to reach for a gun, what are you supposed to do? But I couldn't see that, so how do I know? How does anyone know unless they release a body cam with a better angle, or another dash cam with a better angle? Even one where it's like, if it's from a different angle and it's like, from the side view and you can see Mr. Taylor, leaning down and it's seemingly reaching for something in the center console or whatever, I might give the police a little bit of a benefit of a doubt, but for now I'm just going to treat it like, what I see, which is they came in there, they escalated, and may have unnecessarily shot a man. On my old block, nonetheless. I mean, that's a little disheartening. Not that it was a great block, but, 85th Lake City area wasn't too bad. It was just a little trashy. Yeah, man, it's just disheartening when you think you're safe and, maybe your paid civil servants are out to get you, hypothetically. I know some people are out there gonna be like, oh, come on, man, they're not out to fucking get you, and to your credit, you're right, but if you have a criminal record, you can't just, assume that someone isn't gonna, someone is gonna be a violent offender or whatever. I mean, long story short, they approach this one wrong, and you may disagree with me, and that's fine. I don't care. Yeah, man, that's just fucking bullshit. I guess also in local news, Washington State just got its first case of Zika virus. I gotta be completely honest with you, I have no fucking idea what Zika virus is. I know I've heard a lot about it. I guess I'm about to hit Wiki and just see what the fuck Zika is all about, really. Let's see here. Bear with me just for a second. Zika virus. Let's see. CDC, what do they have to say? Bear with me. Hold on. Let's see. Symptoms, diagnosis, and treatment. All right. Let's see. Symptoms. About 1 in 5 people infected with Zika virus become ill. Most common symptoms of Zika are fever, rash, joint pain, and conjunctivitis, red eyes. essentially. Other common symptoms include muscle pain and headache. The incubation period, the time from exposure to symptoms for Zika virus disease is not known, but is likely to be a few days to a week. Let's see. The illness is usually mild with symptoms lasting for several days to a week after being bitten by an infected mosquito. People usually don't get sick enough to go to the hospital, and they very rarely die of Zika. For this reason, many people might not realize they have been infected. Zika usually remains in the blood of an infected person for about a week, but it can be found longer in some people. Once a person has been infected, he or she is likely to be protected from future infections. Well, shit, my approach on this is like, I'm not saying, hit me with a mosquito with some Zika virus, but if it doesn't kill you, it probably makes you stronger. I don't have a problem with that, I guess. Symptoms of Zika are similar to those of dengue and chikungunya. I just watched The Big Picture with Cal Penn, and they were talking about both dengue and chikungunya. I didn't know how to pronounce that first. Basically, the disease is spread through the same mosquitoes that transmit Zika. Damn, they're like giving me tongue twisters right now. If you have recently traveled, tell your healthcare provider when and where you traveled. Your healthcare provider may order specialized blood tests to look for Zika or other similar viruses like dengue or chikungunya. Ugh. Gunya. Damn. Ugh. I hate that word. Fuck that shit. Yeah. Okay, so basically, whatever. Just, I don't know. I'm not too worried about Zika, but it's just like one of those things where I guess if I get hit with it, it would suck. Let's see what else is going on in Seattle news. A bunch of fucking... The Reddit forum for Seattle is just a bunch of bullshit. It's a bunch of like, oh, I took this picture at fucking sunset. Mount Rainier, sunset. Golden hour. Let's see, there was a shooting on 24th Street in Beacon Hill area. No news on it yet recently. Yeah, but I've heard a lot of cops out lately. It seems like there's a lot of like crime, like as the summer's getting ready to, spring and summer's getting ready to hit, shit's starting to like mount up a little bit. Let's see here. Looks like 2 people were hit in that drive-by. Let's see. Just outside the library, shit. Let's see. That Taylor shooting that I was talking about happened in the 2200 block of Northeast 85th. But yeah, like I said, that's my old neighborhood. I still can't fucking... makes me sick. I guess I'm at the end of the podcast. There's like some other shit that I guess I could talk about, but essentially we're pretty much there. I don't expect to have any sponsors anytime soon. This is just a personal hobby. I'm making the best of my my equipment. I'm having fun making this podcast. Like I said, if you're still here at the end with me, if you have any suggestions, things you want to talk about, I'm always welcome to listener participation. Share me on Twitter, share me on Instagram, share me on whatever the fuck, I realize you can't really share a link on Instagram so much, but, you can, but whatever. You get what I'm saying. Put me out there if you like my shit. Twan will be back maybe like later on in the week when he's not working, when I can get him to sit down and we'll have that back and forth rapport that we're known for, I guess. Alright, anyways, be safe out there. Don't get shot by SPD. Shot by SPD. Shot by SPD. Shot by SPD.